3. She walked out of the police station soon. A few hours later, daylight gradually descended, and it was the morning of the 26th of July. Amazingly, Miss Yang was granted bail in such a short time. The conditions included surrendering her passport, not driving, confining herself to her residence between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. each night, and reporting to the police station every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. After receiving these promises, Miss Yang walked out of the police station, flanked by her chauffeur, lawyer, and several others. She believed everything was fine, that no one would bother her about the accident again. She wore a black jacket, a cup of coffee in her right hand, and an expensive custom watch on her left. With a beaming face, she had just turned the corner of the red brick wall at the police station's gate when she noticed reporters standing by, waiting in a stern line. The cameras and other cameras filmed her, shocking her greatly. She quickly turned her face away and pulled up her high collar to hide her face. But it was too late. Her image was subsequently published by media outlets around the world. Although she wasn't a star or an internet celebrity, she had become known to the world, though her fame and image were less glamorous. Even so, because the judicial authorities have not released any information about Miss Yang, the global media remains completely in the dark. She has no social media accounts, no company registrations, no property records, and no tax records. Aside from knowing she wears Chanel shoes and clothes, a luxury watch, and a custom Prada Miu Miu bucket hat, nothing else seems to be known about her. Even her name is unknown. Is Yang Lan Lan real or fake? As a result, people speculated wildly about her background. Rumors circulated that Miss Yang's family was based in Waverly and the nearby Double Bay area, that her bail amount was extremely high, that her bank balances were as rich as a country, and that her political and business background was influential.
但由于没有贴出证据，因此老王也不认可。但可以肯定的是，杨姑娘背后的团队一定向司法机构给到了超越保释金额度的信任力量。由于许多媒体无法发掘到杨姑娘的相关信息，对其真实身份也是一无所知，因此英国《每日邮报》在新闻注脚中留下了邮箱地址，邀请广大市民一起来提供线索。
4. Sydney residents provide clues to the media. On the 28th of July, 3 days after the accident, some citizens provided the British Daily Mail with photos of Miss Yang's Rolls-Royce Cullinan worth 1.5 million Australian dollars taken on the street. Some citizens also provided photos of Miss Yang's other white convertible sports car, which was an unregistered 2018 Rolls-Royce Dawn. The convertible sports car was worth 850,000 Australian dollars and was parked in the underground garage of her apartment in Vucluse. The reporter wanted to know the location of Miss Yang's apartment, but the citizen did not disclose the address to the reporter out of consideration for the privacy of the informant. 2 days later, on the 30th of July, a citizen provided the British Daily Mail with photos of Miss Yang's Rolls-Royce Cullinan that had been taken on the side of the road, but did not disclose the location of the photo shoot. 2 days later, on the 1st of August, the British Daily Mail published photos of Miss Yang's penthouse apartment. They seemed to satisfy most people's imaginations of Miss Yang's luxurious residence, but I believe these apartment photos are fake. They are likely false information provided by a real estate developer for marketing purposes. Moreover, I found that these pictures were from a resort complex building at number 6 Queens Avenue, Vucluse, which is only 66 meters from the coast. The penthouse area is 630 square meters. Therefore, it is impossible that it is Miss Yang's penthouse. On the 11th of August, the Mercedes driver's spine was repaired, but his right hip joint was removed during the operation, which was equivalent to losing his right hip and leaving him with lifelong disability. The Mercedes driver's employer, radio host Kyle Sandilands, also discussed the accident on his radio show. However, he didn't attempt to dig into Miss Yang's background, instead focusing solely on the Mercedes driver's recovery. Perhaps he had no idea about Miss Yang's background or where she lived.
于是，老王准备自己动手来寻找杨姑娘的真实住处。老王根据一张照片上的理发店名称，就能找到车祸的事发地点。当然，也有办法找到杨姑娘传说中的豪华公寓。由于杨姑娘在照片曝光后已准备搬迁住所，因此住宅隐私的保护口号其实也是形同虚设。
5. I explored Miss Yang's apartment. There are nearly 5,000 houses in Sydney's Vucluse area. Based on the photo, I determined the house was at a 90-degree T-junction, but I searched everywhere all day and couldn't find it. It wasn't until the next morning, when I woke up and stumbled upon a curved three-way intersection in a less luxurious area that bore some resemblance to the one in the photo, that I finally found Miss Yang's apartment. When I found it, parked on the side of the road wasn't a Rolls-Royce Cullinan, but an ordinary black sedan. This area isn't actually part of Vucluse, but Watson's Bay. Technically, the boundary between the two areas should be the road, but Miss Yang's apartment and a house to the west strangely refused to be included in Vucluse. It's clear that this land, like Miss Yang's identity, has a complicated background. Miss Yang's apartment was newly built 4 years ago. Previously, it was a 3-story red brick building with a garage on the first floor. In 2021, the landlord converted it into a 3-story apartment for rent, with an underground garage below the ground floor. The top floor is a suite with a wraparound balcony covering 200 square meters. This is different from the 270-degree balcony rumored online. It actually has a 360-degree view. The media had previously boasted that the view from the apartment's master bedroom not only offered a panoramic view of the sail-shaped roof of the Sydney Opera House and the steel arches of the Harbour Bridge, but also an unobstructed view of the entire magnificent coastline from the North Shore to Manly Beach. However, it must be said that even the news published by the Daily Mail was false and based on hearsay.
根据现场的视觉来看，的确能够看到一点港湾大厦的钢铁拱门，但真实的景观是这样的。我截取的这个画面是站在马路上看到的，而杨姑娘住在3楼，理论上来说，视角位置会比现在高6米。不难看出，杨姑娘在来到悉尼之前，曾经或许住过海景房。因此并不稀罕靠近海边的豪宅，反而中意低调中带着奢华、朴实中带着安静的房子。
6. Background of Rolls-Royce vehicles. Interestingly, Miss Yang often parks her AONE $0.5 million Rolls-Royce Cullinan on the street. Why? The elevator to the basement garage on the east side of the apartment was originally designed to carry 3 tons. But due to its age, its load-bearing capacity has been compromised. Her Rolls-Royce Cullinan weighs nearly 2.8 tons, so the landlord advises her to park it on the street. It's clear that Miss Yang has a carefree personality, or perhaps she simply doesn't care about money. Number 274 Old South Head Road, Watson's Bay, is a discreet yet open luxury residential area, unlike the secluded mansions found near the coast. Furthermore, Miss Yang often keeps the curtains on her glass walls open. Although shy, she is polite to her neighbors. Therefore, Lao Wang speculates that Miss Yang's career plans are more focused on business than government. Since she's focused on business, why not live in Point Piper, closer to the city? I'd venture to speculate that perhaps one of Yang's relatives lives in Point Piper and that she's rented an apartment in Watson's Bay as a temporary home. Perhaps to escape some unpleasant situation or find a new place to live. Furthermore, Yang's apartment is quite large, so perhaps she doesn't live alone but rather with others. Miss Yang's white Rolls-Royce Dawn convertible was probably purchased in 2018 or later, when she turned 16. Her Rolls-Royce Cullinan was purchased in 2025, both the latest models at the time. Furthermore, her cabin is decorated with several of the latest Labubu plushies, demonstrating her deep appreciation for fashion. I speculates that while she boldly embraces fashion, she's also inherently conservative and proud. Otherwise, she should have opted for a more sleek Porsche rather than the rigid lines of a Rolls-Royce.
因此，老王根据以上几点，猜测杨姑娘的父亲或者母亲在商界打拼，而且比普通的商界领袖更加具有尊贵的背景。而杨姑娘应该不是家庭里唯一的孩子，或许她还有一个哥哥，并且最近几年她与父母有一些意见，其中原因可能是她的男朋友不被父母接受，也或许是她的事业方向不被父母同意。
In addition, when she bought the white Rolls-Royce Dawn convertible sports car in 2018, she was only 16 years old. The Sydney city government officially stipulates that people can only obtain a temporary driver's license at the age of 17, so her sports car can only be left idle in the garage. And until 2025, her sports car still has not been officially registered. Therefore, for the past 7 years, this sports car has been just a decoration. What is the purpose of spending 850,000 Australian dollars to buy a Rolls-Royce in 2018, except as a gift or asset preservation? 7. The background of the boy next to her.